Hi everyone, this is Ingi and I'm going to go through the major Arcana cards and what they could mean as an obstacle. We all love it when they show us our opportunities and how wonderful things are going to be. Even clearing out of old energy to have a new perspective and new beginnings. But sometimes the tarot will also tell you when things are more of a challenge and more of an obstacle. And it does often speak of mindset, but the mindset can also be created by the situation as well. And sometimes the obstacle is there for a reason. It's actually there to, it is actually because maybe it's not in the highest and best to be able to move forward without any obstacles. Sometimes obstacles are there to slow us down, to help create a perfect timing in our lives. So sometimes obstacles are actually good. But this anyway, it's just a guide and my take on it. When you work with the tarot, you develop your own style and you get your own relationships with the tarot. The way I work with tarot now is that I work a lot with asking the tarot and the runes what each card mean in certain situations. So this time I asked, what does this card mean as an obstacle? And I tried to not think about what if I wrote it without doing it that way, I would have written it a little bit different, just honing in on the card meaning. So this one might be a little bit outside of that, but it is more better. I think this is a better way. This is vibrationally better. I think this hones more in on the true character of the cards. And it's more than just what we read in books sometimes. So I hope you guys will do oracle mixing. I've done a few videos on it. I teach it on my Patreon. Basically, through the rune course, I give you some ideas how you can do oracle mixing as well as part of that course. So check it out. Okay, let's get started with the Fool. So if the Fool is an obstacle, it could mean that the seeker is too innocent. They're so innocent that they're unable to handle themselves in the situation that you're asking about. So they could just be very naive to the point that it's to their own detriment, basically. And also sometimes they're unable to discern between a good and a bad situation, and they think a bad situation is good for them, a good situation is bad for them. They think good people are bad and bad people are good. That can be the obstacle in the Fool. So, capable magician. How is this an obstacle? So basically with the mind, like if you are the magician and you are this person who has all these skills and abilities and talents, when it's an obstacle, it often is that the seeker is too drained. They could have been giving way too much of themselves. They could be emotionally just too drained, and they're afraid of moving forward because they know they can create. So they know they can create, so they're afraid of creating because maybe they just don't have the energy to deal with what they're creating. So all of their opportunities and manifestations, sometimes it's just too much for them. And they just want a bit of chill, and they just want to be comfortable, and they don't want to leave their comfort zone. Because sometimes in the magician, as an obstacle, it is someone who is drained and tired. It's hard for them also then to really make a decision, and they get a bit confused. And as you can see, this number 8, the infinity symbol here, just goes around and around and around. So they could end up going just around in a circle. But they're not having the major breakthroughs that they can have when the magician is on its best. Okay, the High Priestess. The High Priestess is an interesting card. It is a master manifester. This is, can pull rabbits out of hats. This is someone who can manifest seemingly out of nowhere, and you can get everything they want. But sometimes they're their own worst enemy as well. They can easily block their manifestations as well. When the High Priestess is an obstacle, it is someone who's more comfortable observing on the sideline, and they find it really hard to participate, or for some reason they decided they're just going to take a step back, and they know who they're meant to become. Or they might be in the middle of some kind of transformation and metamorphosis, but they just got stuck in the middle. Not becoming either or either, but somewhere stuck in the middle. They could have some issues around mother figures, and also this card can indicate issues with both mother and father that needs to heal. And that will also help them have a breakthrough as well once they heal their issues around mother and father. Empress. So with the Empress, one thing I was shown with the Empress as an obstacle which was quite surprising, but it makes sense once I, sat with it for a while. It actually, as an obstacle, this card means someone who feels very blocked from their destiny and they're very frustrated. So think about the Empress. What is an Empress? That's someone who really definitely have a destiny. But when it's a block, or when it's an obstacle, the seeker has they really just feel blocked from their destiny. It's almost like it's out of reach. It's like they are this person, the Empress, but they don't have their kingdom, or they just don't have their destiny. And sometimes it could also be created by some neglect in their lives that they have experienced, or it's currently experiencing, or it's happening through the people in their lives. So maybe they have so much, have experienced neglect to the point where they become neglectful themselves. But ultimately they want control in their life. They want more control. And they feel like they're on an emotional roller coaster. And they end up, unfortunately, when this card is a block, they self-sabotage a little bit because they try and regain control of the situation and they're unable to let it go. And because they don't feel like they're on a solid platform, they end up sabotaging, and they're trying too hard to control what they shouldn't be trying to control. And that's the Empress as a block and a challenge. Okay, the Emperor. The Emperor as a block can mean that they are very strong-minded and they want to have a say in justice, especially when it comes to justice. But they often, with the Emperor, seeking justice for either the wrong personal situation or for the wrong reasons. So the path that they're currently on could lead them a little bit astray. And it's more like a vision that they hold that is leading them perhaps a bit on the wrong path. And they need to regain their strength again and their truth, because it's like they lost perspective, and you get the Emperor as a challenge. And they could be dealing with a lot of anger issues as well. With the Hierophant, you get someone, when it's a block, who are very stuck in a teaching or a belief system that they haven't really gotten to themselves by questioning things, introspection. It's more something they've been taught, but they haven't really lived it in any way. So it doesn't really resonate on a very deep level, but they have been convinced on some level that this is what they should follow and this is what they should believe in. But it actually makes them vulnerable to manipulators and liars, and it could also get them stuck in a bit of a negative mindset. Also, with the manipulation, it could make them follow again a path that's not for their highest and best, that they're doing things just to please others who they look up to, rather than finding their own truth and what is their, what is who they are, following kind of what other people are doing. So the Hierophant as a block, a challenge, it becomes like a follower, but following perhaps the wrong person. They need to find out what is true for them, rather than just what someone has told them. The Lovers. This card as a block can mean that the seeker has a hard time deepening a connection in a relationship, and also they often feel a bit unappreciated in this card. And they often, when this is a block, that they attract the wrong types in. They also often feel that others are getting the rewards for their efforts, or they're not being seen for what they can do, and again, not appreciated. So if you get this as a block, perhaps you're not being appreciated. Maybe that is a block in this situation. So maybe that is teaching you something. But it can also teach you, how much appreciation do you need, and who are you proving to? So there are some questions you can ask. Maybe they just don't feel loved on a deeper level, and it's hard for them to love because they don't completely trust as well. With the Lovers, when it is a block and a challenge, it's almost like this mountain here between them. It's almost like it's too big, too high. So they feel maybe a bit overwhelmed in their relationship. Okay, so the Chariot as an obstacle, when it is a challenge, it can be that the seeker is very afraid of authority figures. And there could be just one authority figure, or it could be like authority figures in general. They themselves could come across as an authority that people are fearing as well. And there could just be challenges getting along with people that are both or all of them involved very strong-minded. And the seeker could also find it very hard to find their place in the world where they can just exist, be themselves, and be in the flow. Maybe they feel like they have to be very over-the-top strong-willed to survive, and that it creates some hardship in situations because the situations can't flow naturally. So that's a challenge in the Chariot. This Strength as a challenge card can mean that the seeker is isolating themselves from family and friends. They could feel very burdened by something they know that could be a secret. They feel that they have the world on their shoulder, and they could feel like they just don't know what to do with the burden that they're carrying. And they could be afraid of telling the truth. They could be afraid of getting judged. So with the Strength, it is really the seeker could feel very alone when this card is a challenge card. When you get the Hermit as a challenge card, it could mean that the seeker is dealing with deceit. They could feel like they're surrounded by liars and they just need to hold on to and be guided by the truth. But because they feel that there are so many liars around them that they just can't trust. And also they could be dealing with very controlling types of, like controlling personality types. What the lesson is here to move forward, it is there to teach the seeker to trust themselves. As you can see, the seeker is focusing on truth, on trust, on what they know is right, and that's what's guiding them forward. So this is what the lesson here is. When this is a challenge in your life, you are actually guided now to learn to follow your truth, to know what the truth is, to see through liars and deceit. So you be like a lie detector person and to move yourself forward in truth. So that's the challenge here, and the lesson here also in the Hermit. So with the Wheel of Fortune, when it's a challenge, it could be hard for the seeker to stand up for themselves. They could feel very taken advantage of, especially financially. And there is an off-balance relationship in their life often, where maybe they are being exploited in some way, and they could also be very afraid of conflict. They could be afraid to deal with this exploitation, and that makes it worse. They need to stand up for themselves. The exploiters and the users will fade away once you learn to say no, and you can stand up tall without them latching on and feeding off you and taking everything that's yours, basically. So that's the challenge in Wheel of Fortune. It is that, people are often ripping off the seeker. So Justice, when it's a block and a challenge, the seeker could have lost their individuality, and they could be again, it's losing their individuality often in relationships, but it also could be who they have to be in a community, in society, and maybe they just don't feel like that's who they really are. They just do it because that's what they have to do, because it's the law of the land. This is what people do, where this is how everybody does things. This is not who, but that's not maybe not in integrity with who they are. It's just what they have to do to survive, kind of in the community and in maybe even the country that they live in. Very hard to move forward, because if they make a mistake, they feel like the judgment on them is going to be too hard. They could be very influenced by the point of views of their peers. It could be very hard for them to make a decision due to this. So this could just be like living almost in the wrong place with the belief systems where they're at. And it's not necessarily the country. It could just be in the group of people and even workplace and family as well, where you just feel like you're completely different from what other people believe in. And you're trying to fit in the best you can. You take on others' point of view, but maybe you're so overwhelmed in the situation, you're not really asking yourself, what is your point of view? What are you believing? You're so kind of like trying to fit in and trying to survive in the environment that you are just going with it, rather than thinking, what am I thinking about this? What do I believe? So that's Justice. So the Hanged Man, when it's a block and a challenge, it's there. It means that the seeker could feel very unable to move on from a situation that ended badly for them. They could be completely stuck in it. So they're holding on to old pain and old heartache, and they're not able to let it go and move on. So that's a Hanged Man. When it's a challenge and an obstacle. So death as a challenge for the seeker is that they often are unable to let people know who they are as a person, and unable to share their personality. They are unable to let their inner self out to be shown, like they can't give that for whatever reason. They're unable to express themselves and let people around them know who they are, and it could be that it's not safe to do so, or other reasons, but that's often what this challenge is in death. It can be other challenges as well. When it's very dramatic, it can be it just can be a completely hopeless situation, basically. But it could be a temporary situation where the seeker just feel like, I'm not allowed to express myself, I can't express myself. The garbage truck is driving past while we're talking about the death card. So, yeah. They don't feel comfortable sharing their inner life. And it's causing some pain in the seeker that people aren't seeing them. Because they often can get, misunderstood and perceived as cold. But often it's just that they can't show who they are. Not being able to express who they really are. Okay, Temperance, when it is a block, it can mean, when this is a challenge and a block, it can mean that the seeker is pursuing a path that won't fulfill them in any way. And they could even be in a situation that's poisonous to them. That's toxic. They're definitely not going to be able to thrive in this situation. There could be trauma bond between them and a partner or someone from their past as well. Like there's a trauma bond with somebody often. And then what the lesson is here to learn how to break unhealthy trauma bonds, unhealthy bonds with people that are, and also situations that are just not fulfilling or beneficial for the seeker in any way. So they need to be really honest with themselves, how they're truly feeling, so that they can have well-being in their life. They could be very much stuck in a situation where they have to put up with a lot of bad things without having anyone taking care of their needs, like without having anyone taking care of what they need. It's always them taking care of them, smoothing over them, making sure everybody is good, but no one's ever checking in on them, and it's taking a huge toll. They need to have some balance. Even if they are in a situation where they're giving a lot, they need to have a place also where they can fill themselves up. So that's what the seeker will be working on, or hopefully will be working on with the Temperance card. So with the Devil card, when it's a block, because it's already quite a negative card, it just kind of reinforces that, you see the black background, it is like a real negative kind of mindset that's creating the situation. So they need a change of mindset. But usually it's the blockage challenge is that they feel like there just isn't any reward for them in the situation that they're in, and they're just tired of the situation that's not giving them the reward that they wish for or are seeking. And what they really need is to have that optimism again, and they need to have faith. So they could have lost faith. So a situation where it was not rewarding, and they lost faith, and they lost their optimism, and that's what they need to regain again. So the Tower, again, already a negative card, has a black background. But when I did the oracle mixing to sort of pull out what is the challenge in the block, when that's what it's trying to tell you, it can be then that the seeker is actually inside of this tower. Here the seekers are kind of getting thrown out of the tower. But when it's a block, it's almost like the seeker is still locked into their own tower of their own self that they've created. It could be a false self, like a false ego, that they live inside this false sense of who they are, unable to break free. And they've created this false image to escape the real world and to escape reality in some way. So they're actually using their own mind to escape their problems. They're escaping in their own mind, and they're very powerful in their mind often to do this. This is someone who is often strong-minded, strong-willed. They have a powerful mind, and they have managed to lock themselves inside And that's how they're isolating themselves, and no one will be able to get to the real person. All you get is the front, the facade. You won't be able to get through that. It's a hardcore facade. It's a front that is impenetrable. And it's often fear of rejection and abandonment. So working on those fears can definitely help clearing up the need to hide within your own tower. And the Star, as a block, could be someone who is really haunted by the past. The Star, even as a positive card, it does speak of someone who often has had a traumatic past and they're healing from that. It is the card followed, the Devil and the Tower card. So now it's a healing. So this can mean someone who's had a very tough childhood, even when it's at an upright positive meaning. But they are recovering and they're healing and they're so full of hope for the future and they got through it. But when it's an obstacle, it's almost like they can't get through it. They feel stuck in the past, in their mind. They're unable to stand up for themselves. They have no self-esteem. And they could be really haunted by their bad memories. They need to be strong in their energy. They need to regain their power again. And if they feel really weak, they need to be, and this is very, very important with the Star, is to be around good people. And when it's a challenge card, an obstacle card, it definitely need to be around encouraging, positive people that will build you up and make you feel capable, make you feel strong, make you feel, I can do this, People who let you be who you are. That's important with the Star when it's an obstacle card, because the Seeker really needs the optimism. They need someone to believe in them. It could mean that they haven't got anyone that has their back. They haven't got anyone who believes in them. So they lost faith in themselves as a result as well. The Moon as a challenge. When the Moon is a challenge card, it could be that the Seeker is oversensitive, especially to criticism. Or they feel like they're gonna have criticism and they're so afraid of getting criticized. They're very, very sensitive, too sensitive. They need thicker skin. The block here and the challenge is also that they're always changing their minds. So they're changing their mind all the time what they're going to do, but they don't really know what they want. They are hesitating and they have lost perspective on the situation. So they're changing their mind. They're very hesitant. They don't want to act really because they don't want to be criticized. So with the Moon, it's again, they need to see something clearly. It could be that they're very confused and they have a lot of dual beliefs. So they believe in two opposite things that creates a, it's like both can't be true, but they have invested in both sides that both beliefs who are opposite can be true. And then they know both can't be true. But if they have enough of those dual beliefs, it's like, it's very hard then for them to know what to do, because they just have so many opposing beliefs inside of them that it could be an emotional hurricane going on. But it's often very like they just feel unable to know what is really the truth, what is the reality that should be plain and clear. They're complicating things all the time, and challenge those beliefs and views and start clearing them up. So this is a little bit similar to the Moon actually. The Seeker hasn't got a good perspective on a situation here, and it's often due to a lot of stress. They could be in a big stressful situation, and there could again be outside influences here that is making it really hard for the Seeker to have the full overview, to know what to do, what's going on. So there could be a lot of fears. They're dealing with their own fears, and they could be making poor decisions as a result. So when the Sun is at its best, it means a social life that's brilliant, like outgoing, fun, easy, making friends easy. It's great. They just get on with people. But when it's a challenge, it's very hard for the Seeker to be social. They just want to hide themselves away, because it's hard for the Seeker to make connections here, or they made poor connections, and they could be dealing with the ramification of having made poor connections, maybe being dragged into things that they don't want to be a part of. And because they are often very well liked, the Sun, when it speaks of a person, it's someone who's very well liked. But because they are well liked, the wrong type of people could have gotten the claws in them as well. but they just find it's not safe. Instinctively and intuitively, they feel it's not safe for them to be too social. They want to avoid social situations. They don't feel comfortable. So sometimes with this card as an obstacle and a challenge, it is actually to know more who to have a social life with, who to avoid as well, to have that discernment. So Judgment. It's a little bit similar to the Hanged Man. It is, the Hanged Man needs to have a new perspective. Judgment have a divine perspective. So when it's an obstacle, the Judgment is a bit similar to the Hanged Man. It is then unable to let something go that happened a long time ago, or something that is over, you need to let it go. The Seeker can't, for whatever reason, let something go, and it could be it's too painful. It's too painful to let it go. But with the Judgment, it's also that the Seeker feel like they've been excluded from a group, pushed out of a group or a class of people as well. So they feel like they've been kind of pushed aside. And that is part of the hurt in Judgment. And they want to regain their status, but they feel often in Judgment that their dignity has been damaged. And in some cases, maybe also reputation as well a little bit. And they feel upset and hurt by that. Okay, so the World. When the World is an obstacle, the Seeker could try and control situations that are beyond their control, and that's causing a lot of frustration for them. And they could be like obsessing over things that's completely outside of what they have any control over. And this, as a result, can make it hard for the Seeker to have any kind of peace of mind. So there's a lack of peace of mind here. Sometimes with the World also, it could mean that the Seeker feel like they're very alone in the world. It's like they feel like they are leading and they do have what it takes. And you often see that in the world when it's very positive, that it is like someone who has so much to offer the world. Now they're going out into the world with everything that they have to offer. But it's when the world is an obstacle, it's almost like they're unable to find that place in the world. They feel like other people aren't paying attention or interested in. Maybe they have a goal, and they just feel like there's no one there to share the goal with, or they have a vision, but there's no one there that shares the vision. And they just feel like no one's really that interested. So they feel like they have all this they want to offer, but there's just nowhere to take it to. So that can cause a lot of pain in the Seeker, and they're therefore trying to control situations to get things going that they think is really important, and maybe it is really important, but they just feel like no one's interested, no one's listening. And it could end up wearing the Seeker down on some level. So that's the obstacle here in the world. It is to get people on board, to get people to share in the vision, to move forward sort of in the same direction. No one's listening. They have just this ambition, this drive, this motivation, but there's just nowhere to go with it. So that's the World. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna do all the cards, and I'm gonna make videos about it and blog about that as well. And in the meantime, if you want to watch all of my hidden videos that are not public, they're on my Patreon. So they are the tutorials that I make for my bundle students, but I'm also now sharing them on the Patreon for people who don't want to study all the courses, they just want access to the tutorials, the private videos. So with that, guys, have a wonderful day. Bye!